Hey everybody this is Amanda Christine coming at you with another YouTube video, and the topic of discussion in this video would be my journey with my weight, my self-image, that sort of thing. And basically, um, my issues with food, that's what contributes most to, weight loss, weight gain, that sort of thing, especially if it's like a disorder type of eating. But anyway, my issues with food started at a very young age, even before I was diagnosed with the umbrella term PDD NOS. I was like maybe two and a half when my parents noticed my aversion to certain foods. I would only eat like elongated foods like hot dogs, french fries, celery, carrot sticks, that sort of thing. I was very picky about what I ate, and that of course came with its own challenges amongst certain extended family members, specifically on my dad's side of the family, where it wasn't fully understood. Anyway, I will say that another family member on my dad's side of the family, an Aunt Joanne, she did steer my parents in the right direction. She had a phone call with my father saying that I believe your daughter may have autism and to go get tested, of course, at Children's Specialized Hospital, which is something I did mention in a previous video about being autistic. But anyway, yes, so, once I was diagnosed as being on the spectrum, my parents gradually were trying to get me to eat different foods, and I, of course, at some point wanted to eat like everybody else. Like, I noticed when I was in kindergarten that I wanted to, try the various snacks that other kids had with their lunches. I would like be begging, yeah, food. I would be begging for food from them, and eventually, it got around. I got around to not being as picky, and was starting to, try more and more different foods. In the first, second grade, third grade, whatever. Like, I was eating normally. Alrighty. Yeah, Chloe wants to join this discussion here about my weight. Anyway, obviously with me liking different sorts of foods, I also like to snack as well. And it seemed once I did, like certain things, I would, be snacking constantly. And I do remember a situation, an incident where I was getting ready to go to like either the doctor's office or the dentist office, and my mom told me to, put down this goldfish and brush my teeth, and I brushed my teeth only to go back to eat the goldfish, and she was like, "You're eating again?" And yeah, it's like it was like a compulsion of sorts because I did have OCD like tendencies as well. So anyway, I did go through like a phase where I had maybe a baby fat phase where I looked, a little, I looked chubby, but as far as far as I can remember, I do not recall like a doctor, anyone saying that I needed to lose weight or that I was overweight for my height. I mean, keep in mind that, my dad is 6'3", and so I was always very tall for someone of my age growing up in general, slightly taller than everybody else. And like by the time I was in fifth grade and I was like 10.5 years old, I was 5 feet tall already. And basically, I remember looking something up, coming across something like from when I was in the sixth grade, and it said that I was 11 and I weighed like 110 pounds or something like that. But again, I was probably 5'1" or 5'2" or that at that point, so that was probably normal for my growth rate. But anyway, it seemed like for me, whenever I'd have a growth spurt, I would thin out. So the baby fat would, randomly be gone. And, I mean, I gained the weight back, the weight would catch up. But Generally, I was never deemed overweight as a kid or a teen or anything like that, a preteen. I mean, I will admit have had a couple of situations in my life that were, that traumatized me. Like one when I was 13 and one when I was 26. The one where I was 13, combined with like, personal things or just, maturing, hitting puberty, that sort of thing. Um, I did deal with like compulsive overeating or binge eating because of, the traumatic incident I dealt with as a 13-year-old. And so I ate, I felt like, once I started eating, I couldn't stop. And that was pretty troubling, especially for my parents to see. Like, I know my mom would be concerned, and I guess in a care, this is, yeah, I mean, she cared and was concerned, but yeah, she would just say, stop eating, or you've had this, you've had that, and now you're having this. And I mean, there was at least one occasion where she called me out in front of my grandmother, and I felt embarrassed by that, and I felt ashamed. And I mean, to avoid, anyone calling out my eating, I would just try to control it, basically. I wouldn't eat so much in front of other people, basically. I dealt with the opposite problem in high school, especially the middle of my sophomore year and the middle of my junior year. Because anytime, like, well, when midterms came up, I would just be a big ball of stress and anxiety that my stomach would be in knots. And there were days during, from midterm to finals during both my sophomore and junior years where I could only get down half a sandwich and a thing of Diet Dr. Pepper, a can of Diet Dr. Pepper for lunch. And it was difficult because, like, I did, you know, in that period of time, like, from, as the marking periods went on, by the end of the school year, for both years, I would lose maybe, I don't know, 15 to 20 pounds or so. And, backing up a little bit to the, eighth grade, when there was GEPA at the time, standardized state testing for eighth graders, that caused me to be a nervous wreck where I had a lack of an appetite, I had a hard time sleeping at night, and I was having diarrhea a lot. Excuse me. So that was another, thing I dealt with as well. But anyway, fast forward throughout, the high school situation. My senior year, I was fine. I mean, I wasn't as stressed about midterms and finals because at that point I was really accepted to like Caldwell. Caldwell College was interested in me. Of course, what else? St. Elizabeth, I believe it was, an all girls college, university, whatever. And Ryder, of course, which is where I ended up going. They were interested, so I didn't feel the pressure to perform it. I still did well in school, but I wasn't putting as much pressure on myself. So obviously, I went back to my usual weight, and just to slim down for senior prom, I did lose roughly 15 pounds. I was in the 150s before I lost the weight, and I was like 140, 145 by the time senior prom came around, by the time I graduated from high school. Where things went wrong was when I basically stopped taking a medication that I basically took throughout high school, Prozac, and stopping that medication cold turkey, that caused me to gain a lot of weight in a short amount of time. I mean, I will admit initially I did deal with freshman 15. I was probably around 160 before I gained the significant amount of weight after that. And yeah, so I went from like 160 to like 190, 195, and it felt like it was only a month, like a month and a half, a couple of months or something. It was like a very short amount of time, which was scary. I mean, worse things could have happened where, I could have had heart issues or something from doing what I did, but I basically did struggle with my weight throughout college, and I basically ate however I wanted because I felt like, no one was there to stop me from eating too much or eating certain things, like, so I could eat however I wanted without shame, like, whether I was, like, sitting at the dining hall at my college or just eating alone in my dorm. I would just eat what I wanted, how much, uh, whatever, portion I gave myself, I just ate. And I mean, by the time I graduated college, I was 224, and I did try to lose weight, like when I started the second semester of my grad school years, and when I started working in retail, legitimate, you know, job after college when I couldn't find work in my field of journalism. So, and I did gradually lose weight. It was very slow. Like I lost 50 pounds in over a year. So I went from 224 to 174, which was still overweight, but I looked a lot better. And things with that started to taper off when my my original boss that I worked with, he transferred to a store closer to where he lives. So, and then we had this temporary manager. He only lasted like a couple of months or so, but he saw that I would get overwhelmed quite easily and stressed when it got busy, and multitasking could be challenging. And so he I went from working 7 to 8 hours 5 days a week to working maybe 2 to 3 days a week at maybe 5, 6 hours at most. And so that caused me to get bored, sitting around at home more often than working. So I, of course, went back to old eating habits out of boredom. And, by the time I quit that job, in February 2018, I was there for nearly 3 years. Like I started there March 2015. But anyway, by the time I left that job in February 2018, I had basically gone back to being 224. And like I said earlier, I dealt with a difficult situation in 2018. Several months before then, my paternal grandmother passed away, and all that sort of stuff. And then I was dealing with a lot of things in between, like quitting that job and then trying to work a new job that was going to be full time. And it, you know, I was trained to be a direct support professional, which is stressful within itself. And then the training for it was pretty difficult, especially when you got to crisis management training. But anyway, what lit obviously the traumatic situation that happened to me at 26 April 2018, that's what lit the fuse for me to, like, you know that you know caused things to spiral downward to where I felt the need to leave the job I was training for because it was just going to add too much stress, and I didn't want to, like, get sick again or anything like that. So yeah. And then, I was trying to find new hobbies in between all that. I took time off from, looking for work. I was trying to get into hobbies and working out a bit. I didn't lose much weight. I lost maybe 11 pounds. That's obviously because my eating habits changed somewhat, but not a whole lot. Um, and, you know, long story short, when my parents reconciled in 2018, my dad felt the need to leave the area we were in, which was like a 55 and over community, to move in with mom, which is where I'm at now, of course. So it was like May or June of 2019 we moved, and because we moved out of the gated 55 and over community and we weren't in a gated community, we moved basically into an apartment complex, a nice apartment complex. So I had more access, easier access to ordering things through DoorDash, Uber Eats, etc. And so basically, I was ordering out as often as possible, even if I didn't have the financial means to do so. I didn't care. I just wanted to binge and eat, meals and snacks however I wanted to. And that caused me to put on 30 pounds. And in like a couple of months, like 2 to 3 months. And by the time I got employed at a restaurant near where I live in August 2019, I was in the 250s. And then the holidays came, of course. Thanksgiving, Christmas 2019, I put on another 10 pounds. I go into the new year being in the 260s. The heaviest I've been was like what do you call it? 267 when I went for a consultation with a second bariatric surgeon. First guy fell through, but anyway, pandemic happened. I lost the weight, and I lost the weight. Eventually, got the surgery. June 2020, June 16th, 2020, and I went from like 267. My lowest recorded weight was like 224, 225. Right now, I'm 133. And, I still have body image issues from being as heavy as I was and the excess skin that I left behind. So I admit I do have a bit of body dysmorphia. Where others see me as slender, thin, skinny for my height, I don't see that. But that's something I continue to improve and work on. Anyway, I'm just going to end the video here, and I will see you all another time. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. Bye!